Oh, good morning, YouTube. So, I just wanted to show you some things here that will help you guys that are trying to have good lumber and everything, so that you don't wonder what's going on. Now, this pile that I have here, I had taken this out of the kiln, and if you look, these top boards, and I don't put any weight on the top of it, are bent pretty bad. They're flat, but they're bent. So, I mean, I could probably put them on the sawmill and cut them straight again. Cut straight pieces. I'm not interested in that. There's one over here I've already put on the backhoe. I have another neighbor now who came here the other day, and he'll take all this stuff. He has one of them wood outside burning stoves, and he'll burn all this stuff. So this one here is not bent, bowed bad. Problem with it is it's got some knots in there that have messed it up as it was drying. And I had said before that when wood dries, especially if there's no weight on it, I mean, this is fairly flat, this stuff, but it's really got some pulls and stuff in it, and it was probably the second row on this pile. Now, normally when I stack this in the kiln, there's no tarp on it naturally, because you want it to dry and get air. So I'm taking these 4 boards off of here, and then I'll take the tarp off and show you what I got under there then. And we'll just look at some of this stuff. Some of these boards are beautiful. A couple of them are, bent to the point that you can't really use them. But they're not that bad, and I'll explain it to you as I go. Okay, so I just took that tarp off. Now you can see there's a major difference here in the straightness of these boards. This one here has a little belly in it. The rest of them fairly straight. This one's got a little belly. But usually that belly, because I've cut them a full inch thick, I can usually get that belly out of there and still have a nice straight board. So there's a major difference then between these and those, and that's what I'm trying to show you, that as you go down the pile you get nicer looking wood. So that's important that you know that, and the neater you stack the wood, the better it's going to be. Now, just so you know, this wood pile that's here, when I took it out of the kiln it was 7%, and with all the rain we've been having and everything else and the cloudy weather, I'm happy with that. I mean, to me, at 7%, till you cut it up and make furniture, if that's what you're going to do with it, you're pretty much taken care of. Now, normally, what I would do with this skid is I would start planing it right away. I'd plane the whole thing and stack it up in there. But I'm not going to plane this time, because I've got thousands of board feet of planed wood. So I'm just going to leave this rough cut, because I could sell this a little bit cheaper if I'm not planing it. So anyway, if you look close from this end, you can see every now and then you'll see a board that's, let's see here, right above my fingertip there, there's one that's got a bend in it. There's a little bow in one there. There's a couple rows that are nice and straight. Some pretty wide boards in there. So it's not looking too bad. When you put the boards in the kiln, I try to keep them tight together. Now you can see there's a gap between most of those boards because they've dried. They don't lose a lot when they dry, like just because there's a big gap here, it doesn't necessarily mean that it's from everything drying and making that big of a hole. What happened there was when I was moving the lumber, it was kind of bouncing around a little bit, so it came apart. But normally it stays fairly tight. But my whole point here is that from the bottom up, if you look at the bottom boards, they're really nice and straight. And as you come up, now there was a log there that didn't have any, really nice boards to them, but they're not. They're flat, and that's the whole point here. So my advice, and you can take it for what you want, my advice to you is to stack it as quickly as you can after you cut it. Stack it tightly. Stack it nice and flat and level, and keep all the boards nice as you stack them, and keep the stickers in there at least you know, within an inch or so of one another as far as up and down goes, and you'll end up with some pretty nice boards. There are some boards that no matter what you do to them, you're not going to be able to keep them from warping. About 3 years ago or 2 years ago, Carmine and I had cut some maple, a maple tree, and man, I was getting some boards out of that thing 24 inches wide. And with the maple tree on the sawmill, you know, you're working with, the tree just died a little bit ago, so when we were cutting it, the boards were magnificent. I put the boards on the pile, and at the time they were down real low on the in the kiln. Now it's not this pile, I'm talking about many piles ago. But anyway, the point is that they started to warp and twist, mainly twist. And I'll tell you what, they twisted so bad that they picked up the entire pile of wood above them and messed all that up. And they literally twisted 3 inches from one side, you know, one, like say this far corner to the opposite far corner on the back side. 3, maybe even 5 inches. And there was nothing I could do to get them boards to lay flat. They were just unbelievably, you know, had the tendency to warp. But the tree, when I was cutting it down, a couple guys had made comments, it literally looked like the tree grew in a circle. Not a circle like annual rings, but like that the tree turned around somehow. I don't know if it did it from some kind of a, you know, it would be hard for me to believe that a hurricane or tornado did it, but somehow or another in its life it just decided to twist. And that twisting, I'll tell you what, once I cut those boards up, the tree was probably 30 inches in diameter or so. When I cut that tree up, those boards that I had, they just started to untwist, and it was unbelievable how badly they got the pile of lumber. This pile of lumber here is a good pile. You look, let's see, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. So 25 layers of wood. You can figure basically that's the same size as 25 sheets of plywood. Now, for this, it would be like 25 times 32, and then you could multiply that out wherever you want to go with it, depending upon where you're at, what the market is, what the market will bear as far as selling it. You know, red oak goes for $8 a board foot. Some white pine goes for $2, $3 a board foot. It all depends on how nice it is. So, you know, it's hard to figure out what you want to sell it for. But if you do it in a way that's project management wise, you have to sell it for a given amount of money to make money. So I leave that up to you on how much you would want to charge for stuff like that. I'm just saying that, you know, the potential is there to do what you need to do. Now, this particular pile here, I'm keeping this, but I have other piles that guys bought from me last week, and they wanted them planed, and I'm not planing them. I'm just at the point where I'm too old for it. I'm tired of doing it. It doesn't mean I won't plane if I'm working on something for myself, and I'll show you a project that I am working on now. But anyway, I let them plane it themselves, charge them for the planer a little bit. The blades I can sharpen, so I'm not really worried about that. And since there's no nails or nothing in his boards, because they're brand new, the planer is pretty much, you know, stays in good shape. The guy just has to understand how to use the planer, and they've been doing pretty good with that. And it saves them money, because if I have to plane it, I'm looking for $1 a board foot, and if somewhere in that neighborhood. And if I don't have to plane it, you don't have to pay that. Now I do charge you know, something for the electricity and stuff to run the planer, but it's not that bad of a deal. So anyway, I'm going to be taking a pile of this and bringing it in the garage here because I need wood in here at any given time to make something, and I don't really care what type of wood it is. I can make it out of white oak, red oak, it doesn't matter to me. Now some of that stuff we took off the top there was white oak, so you can see there's a couple pieces of white oak there, and then it starts to turn into red oak, and then there's some, I believe, white ash in there on the bottom, that gray painted stuff. So we'll check it out and see, but I just thought you'd like to see how the pile looks after it's been dried. And like I say, that's down to 7% now. So guys, then one of the other things that you should know, now this stuff here, I'm going to just give to the neighbor. Now you might look at this and say, well, that's not really that bad, and you're right about that. But like this board here has a pretty good bow in it. But if you look down the one side, the left side there, the grain is nice. So technically you could put this on the sawmill or a table saw and cut it in half and have a nice 1x6 or a 1x4. And you can do that, like this one is the same way. I'm not interested in cutting more wood. I've already cut thousands and thousands of board feet in the past 4 years. I'm not interested in cutting to get the money, okay? I don't need that. Not interested in it. I'm just saying that's what you can do. So, you know, if you're short on lumber, especially hardwood, this is red oak here you're looking at, you know, you might want to cut off the center of the tree, and normally you don't have the center in hardwood, but you may want to cut that off. Same thing with this side, cut it, and end up with a nice 1x4 that you can get top quality prices for. You know, like I say, for me, all I'm doing is going through this pile, picking out the very best, and that's what I'm hanging on to. So he may take some of this stuff where I dump this and stack it up somewhere. That's up to them. All I do is dump it, and I'm done. I just want to keep my place as straightened up as I can, and it's hard to do when you cut lumber every day or every other day. Same thing with these stickers. What I've been doing with these now, I haven't been saving them. I've just been cutting them up for firewood sticks, because I've got a whole pile of stickers in my garage, and I got another pile, well, you can see laying right, I think you can see that somewhere, right there, there's a pile of them. So I don't need more stickers. Now you can see stuff like this one here, you know, little things like that. I mean, if you only need 4 foot of a board, and with hardwood, unless you're making molding, you don't really use real long lengths all the time. So you could cut that out of there and still have a nice board. And I might do that depending on what the rest of it looks like. So there's a lot of ways to save lumber, save money, and put things together. I don't have room to put all the different sizes of wood that I would want to have, so I try to keep the bigger sizes, and you know, like 1x12, 1x10, but if it's 1x6 and it's good, I hang on to it. 1x4, if it's good, I'll hang on to it. If I come up against other things that I think you should know, I'll turn the camera back on again then. We're getting into some nice stuff here now. So you can see what the measurement is there. It's 11. So it was 7. And this is a new meter, so it's not very far down in there. If I could get it down in further, it would probably show lower. But anyway, just figured I'd, yeah, there's a 9 there. So you can see that the moisture content's close to what I was saying. And that's about half that pile now. I think I got 2 more rows to take off of there yet, and you can see I'm pretty full there. So I'm going to come up to about the bottom of the switches, where the switch is, and then that'll be enough wood for in here. I use this stuff, sometimes I'll cut it to start a fire actually, but most of the times I use this wood to make furniture, you know, when I'm in the mood to make it.
Yeah, he took the apple.
This is a pretty big black bear here. Looks like he got porcupine quills in his foot. Yeah, he must have been after a porcupine. Where that black tape is 6 feet. No, that's just seeds. Okay guys, so then one of the neighbors came over and he wanted trusses made. He's building a shed 10 by 14 and he needed a 10-foot wide truss. So what I do, just to give you an idea here, now normally I use AutoCAD on the computer, but I have to get a new license for it. So what I did was I drew a plan here that shows the truss, and then I just use that. These are 512 regular trusses. They're not made out of treated wood now. This is the lumber. These 2x4s were sitting over on that pile that had been over by the garage there for a couple of months. Now this is framing lumber, so this stuff is down to about 16%. Now if I would have left it outside the past 2 weeks, it probably would have went back up to 19 because we have gotten a tremendous amount of rain. But anyway, the boards that you see here, those are the bottom of the truss that rests on the wall. And then these are the rafter parts. Now, the gap between the length of the whole truss there, as far as the rafter part goes, is about 6 foot 2.5 inches. So you're looking at, I don't know, probably 4 foot of 2x4 that's is carrying a load. Now these 2x4s, from what I figure, you can put these 2 foot on center. They don't have to be treated, and you can also you don't have to put any more braces in there except for that one brace that's in the middle. Now normally what I do is I'll take plywood or OSB, depending upon, you know, how much the person wants to spend, and I'll cut plates to fit here, 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 and then down there, and then I'll nail it all together. Now you want to be careful with a truss. You want to make sure that every truss is just like the one you made, you know, a minute ago. So I have them cut pretty accurately. You know, you got to be careful with them, and they're all the same. The middle frame board is right here. And you just go ahead and put them together. Now what I like to do is I like to put the top together there first. Now I won't nail that small board into place, but I'll put a plate across the 3 of these boards and nail this rafter and this rafter together so they don't really move. And then I'll put a plate on here and then one on the other side, and then I'll fit that middle board in. Now every now and then, depending upon how long things are sitting and if what the moisture is in them, this bottom board will have a little bow in it. Now you got to remember, and in case you don't know this, as a framer, a framing contractor always puts the boards with the bend up. So up is that direction on these. So any bends that are, or bows that are in this thing will be put up, and then this one would be up. Now, if this one doesn't have any bow, and you cut that middle brace, and you have bows on some of the others, that's the reason why I put the triangle together first, so that I can push against that bow and still hold the truss together in one shape, because a triangle, once it gets its shape, it doesn't really change unless the nails come loose. But what I'll do is I'll nail that together, and then I'll flip it over, do the same thing, and then we'll take and use that as a pattern, or you can draw a line around it if you want to on the floor, but I'll use that as a pattern to make the next one. Okay, and then I'll make one on top of that and keep going. Now that's what I used to do. Okay, I also used metal plates with screws or roofing nails, whatever, to keep the trusses together. Now this guy here in particular likes to use metal plates and screws, and that's fine because I'm not putting them together. I've done him a good favor by designing the truss on paper. I've also done him a favor by cutting the pieces for him, and that's the end of favors with this. So he's got to put this together, and it's good for him to learn how to put it together. The guy, he does okay with when he's working. It's just that he's not a carpenter, so he needs to learn some of this stuff if he wants to work with it. He had mentioned about bringing his wife up here to help him with this, and I think it's a good idea, personally. So anyway, like I say, you make as nice a cut as you can. You can see that cut there is pretty nice. And then when you look at that over there, it's got to come up. This board needs to come up. Let me just look at this a little bit. That cut's not bad. And then this cut here, if you see the bottom's touching pretty much, the top's not. So I don't worry about stuff like that. You just get it to the best shape you can, nail it together, and usually the other ones will fall into place. To be honest with you, if you're off with the shape of the truss, no more, you don't want to be more than like 3/4 of an inch off. And by that I mean 3/4 of an inch either high, or the point pushed that way too far. In fact, maybe I'll go with 1/2 inch, not 3/4. That's a little too much. If you're off 1/2 of an inch with any of the trusses compared to the other truss, you don't have to worry about that. You'll put this thing together. The only thing you want to do is, when you start putting trusses up, you want to put the first one up and the last one up, and string a line along the face of where the face board's going to go, so you can have a nice straight face on the trusses. And then when you look at the back of the trusses, if you have to trim one or something, then you can trim it. But, when they make them in a factory, they have a better way of doing it. I'm not a factory for trusses, but I can make trusses, and the trusses will work just fine. I made the trusses for the sheds that I have, the 12-foot high shed over there, and the smaller shed over here. I made those trusses, and I made so many sets of trusses for people I can't even begin to tell you how many I made. But anyway, I'm just showing you that this is what you can do. And all of this is from lumber from the sawmill. So he did not pay me $8 for a 2x4. As far as I'm concerned, when I cut the lumber, I put a price on it. That's what the price can stay, because I can always get more lumber, more logs. So I sell it then. Now it's not good business to sell at a lesser price from the past. The best business practice is to sell it for whatever you're needing now. But I'm not really needing the money because I'm retired, so I'm trying to help people to save and still have something. I mean, it's nice when this shed is done. It'll be a nice 10 by 14 shed. Isn't bad. It's a nice size. I mean, I'd have made it different than that, but he knows what he wants, and it'll be a nice size for him to keep stuff in. So even a little workshop at that size. So anyway, that's what I've been working on here the past couple of days. You know, cutting these. Not as fast as I used to be. I used to be able to make it. I probably, at another time in my life, I could have cut all of these boards. There's only 8 trusses. I could have cut all the boards and put all the trusses together and probably had 2 up on the wall. But no more. I pretty much had it. But I still enjoy working, and I like being out and doing the best I can do. So I'm just showing you what that looks like. So anyway, you can make the overhang then from the edge of this, you know, whatever you want it to be. This is about 1 foot, so he'll be happy with that, I believe. But I called him the other day and told him he needs so many plates. There's 4 plates on each side, so 8 trusses, that's 64 plates he's going to need to be able to put these trusses together. And it won't take more than, with all the screws in, probably a half a day to put them all together, just because of all the screws. So yeah, and like I say, if you didn't want to spend the money on plates, you could easily use plywood on that. But the way plywood is priced at $100, I mean, you can use OSB, but I really don't like OSB. I've used it and it lasts, especially if don't have a leaky roof. But if you use plywood, it's better. But the price of plywood at $100 a sheet is crazy. So you know, the metal plates are probably going to end up being cheaper. Anyway, that's what I've been working on, and I figured you'd like to see that. And it's a 512 truss. In other words, it rises 5 inches for every 1 foot. And that's pretty much in this neck of the woods with the snow we get in the thawing and stuff. If you put regular shingles on there, or especially if you put metal roofing on it, it'll never leak. Even regular shingles will hold up pretty well with a 512 pitch. So, okay guys, I thought that you'd like to know a little bit about what I was doing here on the side. And that's what's happening. So have a good one. Bye.